Hi, Audacious Kids. Isn't it wonderful that we can grow our fruits of the Spirit so that we can become more like Jesus, so that we can behave more like Jesus, and that we can draw closer to God as we grow our fruits of the Spirit? And the two things that I want to speak to you about today are joy and peace. Now, sometimes joy can get a bit muddled up with happiness, and we can feel like our happiness can be zapped. Now, as I was growing up as an older teenager, I started to learn to drive. And my friends were driving, my sister could drive, seemed like everyone was passing their test. So, as I had my lessons, I took my test, and at the end of the test, I pulled into the bay and turned to the examiner expectantly, and he said, "No, I'm sorry to say you haven't passed. This is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong." Oh, okay, well, I went away pretty fed up. But I went again, I had a few more lessons, and then I took my test again. Pulled into the bay at the end of the test, and he turned to me and he said, "No, sorry, you haven't passed. This is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong." Well, I was fed up. I think I cried all afternoon, thinking, am I ever going to pass my test? But I went again, had a few more lessons, pulled into the bay, and he said, "I think that was worse than the first time. I'm sorry, you haven't passed." I think I cried for about a week. Was I ever going to pass my test? And boy, did I feel like my joy had been zapped. Now, there's two people in the Bible in Acts, Paul and Silas, and their happiness, I'm sure, was zapped when they got thrown into prison. And they got thrown into prison for talking about Jesus. They were beaten and they were thrown into the innermost part of the prison where there was no light, there was no, it was freezing cold, and they were handcuffed by their hands and by their feet. They couldn't move. Now at night, they started to sing, and they started to sing their praises to God. It wasn't happy for them, it wasn't a happy time, but they had their joy inside of them that was overflowing, and it was overflowing because they were singing praises to God. And as they sang, the prison walls started to shake. As they sang, the prison walls crumbled down, their chains fell off, and so did the chains from all the other prisoners in the jail. Now the jailer woke up and said, "Who is this God? Who is this God that you serve that is making all of these chains fall off and causing this earthquake? I want to know him." And that night, all of the jailer's family got baptized. Now, Paul and Silas's situation wasn't a happy situation, but they had a deep down joy through knowing Christ, through knowing Jesus. Because joy isn't a super happy feeling that we get when we get given a packet of sweets or when we get invited to a party, because those feelings can disappear. Our joy in Christ doesn't disappear. We overflow with joy like Paul and Silas did. And what a challenge for us. Now, we can learn from Paul and Silas because they chose to look to Jesus. And how brilliant would that be if all of us, knew about the fruits of the Spirit? How brilliant it is that we can grow our fruits and become more Christ-like.